Welcome to Naija Filmmaker, a podcast about Nigerian filmmakers, their films, and how we can build a diverse and functional industry. I'm your host, Stella Gott. On this episode, my guest is Daniel Itegboje. He's a filmmaker, medical student, and a StoryMe fellow. He directed On Your Own, a short documentary that screened at several festivals. We talk about On Your Own, his StoryMe fellowship, and his next project. If you're a new listener, you're welcome, and I hope you enjoy. Hi Daniel, you're welcome to the Naija Filmmaker.
Thank you, Stella. Thanks for having me.
Tell us how you started out on your filmmaking journey.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm a bit divergent. I've been very divergent for so many years, and I've always liked to have a taste of so many different things. So prior to becoming a filmmaker, I think I was at that point trying to be an engineer, and I was chasing a professional guitar career, also playing bands and the rest. But along the line, I fell in love with people's stories, and there was something about bringing real life stories to life for me that struck me. So I had my brothers, my elder brothers had my twin and my elder brother they were photographers, and my elder brother in particular was a videographer. And sometime 7 years down the line ago, I just decided to, let me try this thing out. Let me try out bringing out people's stories. And that's what really propelled me to documentary filmmaking, because documentary filmmaking it is the art of realism, bringing people's experiences and real life stories to life through the people themselves. So that's what really drove me to documentary filmmaking. So I got into it. I for the first year I learned as fast as I could, picked up stuff from people around. I got a little bit distracted chasing money from event workflows, music videos, and advertisements. Then a couple of years down the line, I decided to refocus and really key into what I really, really love. So far I first made a documentary short film called The Journey to Joy. Then from The Journey to Joy, I made a documentary series called Stories from Benin. It's a 5-part documentary series. Then until my most recent documentary project, OIO. Apart from that, I've also made a couple of documentaries for NGOs, governments, and stuff like that. Yeah, that's really been the synopsis of my journey.
Okay. I mean, you've already spoke about a lot. How many years ago did this journey start?
January 1st, 2019 was when I decided to start. I decided to choose filmmaking as an art form and become serious with it. So since January 1st, 2019, if I do the math, that's about 6 plus 7 years. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah. I mean, how helpful was it that your twin and your elder brother were photographers? Were you able to, like, before you actually started on your journey, were you able to pick up some things from how they worked and documented things?
Yeah, I've always said I'm a big sucker for community, and I believe that you cannot really grow as much as you would love to without having a very sound community around you. And it's the same reason why I also chose medicine, because it's a very practical course. Same thing with filmmaking. I believe as a filmmaker, your community and being hands-on makes you learn pretty fast. And what I really loved about having family or having my brothers in particular as forerunners before me was that before I could start shooting or whatnot, they did give me a sense of, they had developed my artistic eye to see, to find subtext, to look beneath the surface. So I really had a very strong artistic mind for how I would want to approach my project. The only thing was that when I became a filmmaker fully, I decided to. I now started refining the artistic eye. Unlike if I had just started off on 0 and just picked out from nowhere. And the same thing is not just for my brothers, for a lot of my people around. I sit around a lot of photographers. So in terms of what I love photography itself is that you're trying to pass so many emotions with one image. So just imagine having knowing how to pass a lot of emotions with one image, applying it to moving images like filmmaking. So now for photography you are confined to an image, but now finally you have a platform where you could have moving images. So basically it was really, really helpful, and it helped me really go really fast.
Okay. You also talked about, studying for your medical degree. How do you manage to balance all these aspects of your life?
Right, okay. For me personally, I do not believe in the concept of work-life balance. I just believe in the concept of life, and I believe that anything you choose as work should be something that you are comfortable in, or it's something that, yes, it can be stressful, but something you find yourself easy in. For medicine, I do not see medicine and filmmaking as filmmaking is one side, medicine is one side. I find both of them as one in my mind. Personally, like I said, I've already drawn the parallel between how both of them are very practical. Apart
Mm,
from them being very practical, with medicine, I get to interact with so many people every day, including sick, healthy, old, young. And I feel, apart from the camera aspect of filmmaking, that interaction does a lot to me in terms of how I view life and how I situate stories. Now, when it comes to actually the time consumption, it's quite tasking. Um,
yeah.
like I said on the filmmaking and like finding time for filmmaking itself. But I did something earlier on when I started. Um, when I and my brother decided we wanted to go pro and wanted to create something bigger than us, we decided to start off a production company called 3WM Productions. And we started that off in, I think that was 2021. And
Yeah.
so the goal of 3WM Productions was to allow us our exist outside, or be able to give us is an extension of our arms to do more than we would normally do. So what we did, we individually brought our networks and we power charged the company, if that's the word to use. And what that did for me was that as a filmmaker, it gave me focus. So in terms of random jobs like documentaries, advertisements, the production company handles it. I supervise the production virtually. We have on ground producers. Then what I usually do, I dedicate myself to long term film projects that are documentary driven, and I try to find those
Yeah.
stories that are very close by around me. So that's why for my latest project OYO, I followed my boys for about 3 months, but in the midst of following them for that long, they were not so far from me. It's literally literally a kilometer from the hospital to where the boys stay, and it was
Yeah.
literally I could walk from my house to the boys. So I tried to I that I see this kind of I don't really believe in work life, like I don't separate it per se. So some days when I'm back from the hospital, I could pick up my camera, I could go with my DOP, we just go some weekends like that, and that's how we made it work. Then yeah. So yeah, for medicine, and it doesn't feel like stress. It doesn't feel, although it takes, if it can become very stressful in quote, but it doesn't feel like stress. I believe medicine is life. I believe medicine makes me a better filmmaker. Apart from the empathy and the rest, it really brings context to a lot of things I do, and it gives me a
Yeah.
sense of order, if I would say so. It's been going great, yeah, and I will be a doctor soon, and they haven't kicked me out of medical school, so I think everything is going great so far.
Okay. That's great. Like in a country like Nigeria, different people have different ideas of what a documentary is. For you, what formed your view on what a documentary should be?
Documentaries are moving still images, if that's what I would say, or documentaries are motion pictures that
Mm,
uses a real life person or experience to tell a story. Basically, is a moving picture that's depicting realism. Simple. Like different people can. There are different forms of documentaries. We have cinema verite style documentaries. We have expository documentaries, descriptive documentaries. We have reenactments. Do you get different forms of
yeah.
documentaries? But as long as the motion picture is depicting something that is real and is capturing real time events, it's a documentary.
So yeah, let's get into on your own. But before we get into that, which one came first, on your own or the Story Me fellowship?
Yeah, the Story Me Fellowship came before On Your Own.
Okay, so let's talk about that. I'm sure that there were lots of applicants, but you made it to the top 6 that were selected. For you,
Yeah.
how did you capture your story in the pitch?
Yeah. If I actually look back, the way the process was actually you'd submit a cover letter, you'd submit a treatment, a film treatment, you would submit, and you just give a brief overview of yourself and what you do. Okay, so you submit those, and basically they select you. So then I had the project for OYO. In fact, the film then was called Displaced in Time, and it's
Yeah.
kind of why the boys they like. It was towards the end of the when that it was a week to the film's release that the name was changed to On Your Own. They felt Displaced in Time was too complex. Like they were not
Yeah.
simple enough to understand by everybody. So I had the idea then for OYU, which was called the Space in Time then. I had tried to shoot. I had the idea for OYU in 2020, but due to COVID and the rest, I had paused it and I focused on other projects. So when the space for the fellowship, time for the fellowship application came, I said, okay, I have this project. I have access to my boys. And I really want to tell the story. So I already created the treatment for. I submitted to one Sundance program earlier that year, but I didn't get accepted to it. So I just carried the treatment from that I used to submit to the Sundance program. I made a nice cover letter. I created a simple email and put links to my portfolio and my social media. And I didn't the way I literally live my life is I submit to a lot of things. Like I submit for the most random of things. So I just randomly submitted and I'm like, okay, let me just submit. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, in fact, I haven't expected not to work because at that point in my life, all the applications that I was submitting, none of them were working. So,
Yeah.
and voila, in a month later, I got an email that I've been selected. And what was quite nice was that it was the first time I had people actually looking into my work. Do you get it? Was when we went for the fellowship, the first few days, they were analyzing my past work, and I was like, oh, they even went this detailed. Yeah. So at that point, OIU didn't have a very strong narrative
Spine.
arc. It didn't have it was not the film was not strong enough. If I even look back, I'm glad they even selected the film then because the treatment was very vague. But they selected the film. We came to Lagos. We had a really nice 1 week of very strong work, if that's what I would say. It's really that 1 week redefined what I know about documentary filmmaking. It ironed out my edges, and it put a lot of answers to questions I've had for a very long time. But I was paired with Mayeni Jones. She was BBC's senior correspondent for West Africa, and she really mentored me over 6 months of the project into some certain things to look into. We also had Louis Monlau. She's an Emmy nominated documentary filmmaker, and Ike Nabwe. He's a renowned documentary filmmaker in the country too. So we could ask a lot of questions. We could get a lot of knowledge on many things. And after that 1 week, we're able to just go into the air and try and shoot our film. Yeah, I said so. That was the story, me journey.
Okay. So what were some of these burning questions that, that opportunity afforded you to kind of clarify?
Okay. First of all, documentary filmmaking is not. It's not like I had that idea in particular about it, but documentary filmmaking, a lot of times people feel it just has to be about someone is going through something. You want to tell it. Yes, you want to tell a societal issue, fine, but people look at documentaries as news reportage. And when I got there, we had, and that's why I like the fact we had different trainers. We had people from the news background, and we had people like Louis Monlau, who is an Emmy nominated French documentary filmmaker that had the narrative style to documentary filmmaking, the more filmic style to documentary filmmaking. So first of all, and it also did something for me. Like I said, I'm a very community driven person. And for years prior, I didn't really have mentorship. I didn't know. I was learning on my own and trying what I could do. But being there and seeing people that have done this and had passed through this phase, and I could interact with, gave me a sense of confidence that okay, yeah, I'm on the right path, and I just really need to do this and this. Apart from that, they really tied in terms of our narrative arc, our story arc. They really put us into understanding how our story arc should go. Writing our documentary film, the treatment, how to really break down the treatment so that any person globally, locally, internationally, anywhere who you are reaching out to will be able to understand what you are saying in very clear terms. It's one thing
Yeah.
to be it's one thing to make films for an Nigerian audience, but another thing to make films that everybody globally can resonate to. And in terms of how apart from how you shoot, how you interview, and and your messaging, it needs to be very direct and clear. Actually, even if there's a lot of subtext. So having and another thing was we had Ike from Nigeria, we had Miami was from I wasn't actually from an African country. I can't remember at this point. Then Louis was French. We also had Sophie Boyon that was French. And we also had some other guest visiting people that came around, especially for the final
Yeah.
week. So having people from different nationalities come together and brainstorm about your film and different films, and it gives you a much, much more global view to how to approach filmmaking. So that was really what stuck out for me, and it was just a very enlightening experience. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we'll still come back to story meet, but let's get back to on your own. So you did this workshop in Lagos, and it clarified a lot of things for you. Now you were equipped with a better understanding of how to, structure this your documentary. I noticed from the film that, it was just kind of like observational, and you just kind of let them, kind of talk about themselves and their experiences. But like, how did you trigger them to kind of, I guess, talk in that way? And was it also difficult gaining their trust?
Okay, yes, yes, yes. That's a wonderful question. And that's one of the most common questions I've had for OYU. Now, from the onset, I've always wanted to have a cinema verite style observational um, approach to the film. I
Yeah.
personally, I don't like reportage films like news reporting, documentaries, and the rest. I like
Mm.
documentaries where you don't, there's a lot of subtext. You allow the audience, leave a lot of questions in the film for the audience to answer. And that's why in the full OYO, you won't see any part where they're saying, our government should come and save us, so come and do all those. You
Mm.
get. I wanted the boys to express the boys as humanly as they can be expressed possibly, show different aspects of who they are, and allow the audience pick out what they want to pick out from the story. So
Yeah.
in getting the trust for the boys, I learned, and that's why I still love medicine. I learned one very strong aspect of life, and I learned that every human being wants to be seen. Now, the idea for OYO and why we called it displaced in time was that displaced in time meant that the boys were everywhere around us, but we can't see them. So, like, they're in a different reality. That's
Yeah.
why we initially called it displaced in time. All of us are together, but they're not in our time, in our reality. So
Mm.
it's the same thing is so, but and the same thing with OYO. And that's why at the beginning you could see a kid standing at the middle and people are just passing by in troves, and it doesn't really matter. You get because
Yeah.
nobody cares. So and now the boys really wanted to be seen. So for the first few weeks, I found it hard finding them, which was funny because I knew they were at a particular bridge, but I could not find where they were on the bridge. I was checking one side of the bridge. I had not seen them. I was getting worried. Until one day, one of my production team members said, she saw tiny heads on the other side of the bridge. And from there, we picked it up. We got them. We saw them where they were actually on the bridge.
Yeah.
And from there, we started connecting. We didn't just bring cameras. We took some time. We developed a rapport. We met the younger ones first. The younger ones became comfortable with us. Then they took us to these elder ones like Blackie and the rest. And it
Mm.
was scary to be honest because actually when I saw Blackie for the first time, they carried us into the bush to go and see the elder ones. So
Yeah.
just imagine young kids carrying you in a bushy trail. I and my crew just summoned up courage and we met them, and from that day we became very chill. And in fact, it took some days, weeks before I even got to start shooting. And they said, you said you come and shoot us now. I'm not seeing you since. So I'm not like, don't worry, I'll come. I checked them out. We tried as much as possible to This is how we give them money, so that there's an ethical thing line between being supportive and buying their story. So we didn't give them money
Yeah.
to come and talk. You get.
Mm.
So we built trust over a while. And by the time we brought the cameras in, it was very natural. They didn't need to pretend what they are not. And in fact, the way I shot it was that it was a conversation between I and them. My DOP was very smart and responsive. So I remember editing, we had room tone. So points where my voice is going to come in, would use the room tone to remove my voice and put the room tone. So it would be like they made a pause. You
Yeah.
get. So we kept it very chatty and very communicative. And also I give them a lot of time to talk. Ideally, when you're shooting these kind of films, I'm talking from an NGO perspective. You want to show how all the struggles they're going through in life. God should come and save them. Oh. They are
Yeah.
suffering. Oh. Government should come and help. But we allow them wonder. And it taught me something very practical. It taught me something about the big pause, where you have people come in for an interview. For the first 20 minutes, they tell you what you want to hear. They tell you how they're suffering, how they know the chop, everything. Then after the 20,
Yeah.
30 minutes of rambling what they feel they want to tell you, they make a big pause. And most filmmakers at that point would just off their camera. But for I and my team, we learned that practically. So when they make that big pause, camera is still rolling. But in a way, I don't know, they feel that you have gotten what you want to. That's when they start talking. That's when they start saying what the thing from their hearts. That's when they start expressing their raw emotion. So that's what we did. We gave them time to ramble. We had a lot. I don't think we have any interview less than 30 minutes or 40 minutes. Some of those
Yeah.
interviews were an hour long, and we just used like 5 minutes out of it. So they had time to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And in as the more they talked, the more homely they felt, the more seen they felt. So it was not just these guys are coming to use and create content or whatnot. It was this, forget even the cameras. Someone that is not an LMA boy is sitting down and listening to me. Ideally, people these are the kind of people that you should tell me that I'm a criminal, I'm a thief. Do you get? It's finally listening to me. So I feel that really sparked something in them. So that's how we're able
Yeah.
to build so much rapport and connection. And some of them confessed some crimes they had done on camera. That is how
Free.
like
Yeah.
open they became. So on the other end, I had to make sure that when we're putting it in, we didn't put things that might get them in trouble in the film. You get, but we developed a very strong bond and connection from the film. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so like if you ask me, I would say that there wasn't a central character, but to you, was there a central character in your story
No, I didn't
on
want
your
to.
own?
So what I did, I didn't considering that it was is a multifaceted topic. It's um affecting different age groups. I
Yeah.
didn't. I tried to keep the focus on the topic itself. I used Jalabia Jeffrey,
Mm.
may so rest in peace, who was a younger kid, late
Yeah.
teenager who was chased out because of Milo and the rest. I was able to get into his philosophy and the rest. But Jeffrey is always moving with Bozo, which is the other boy that was with him in the film. So we
Yeah.
used the both of them both of them were moving together, so we were able to capture their stories kind of together. Then Blackie was the one that could give us a full rundown of how the system works. He was their leader. Do you get?
Yeah.
He was their leader and everything. Then we also had Scatter. Scatter he's very eclectic, very unpredictable, very, very him as a person always interested me. Do you get? So
Mm.
the day we were shooting Blackie's interview, I just started having a conversation with him, and my DOP was, like I said, was very responsive. So we just picked up from there. So when we're editing the film, we tried to make sure that as much as we had about three major characters, we didn't want the story to be, as much as we wanted it to be very personal, we wanted to
Yeah.
show different sides to the story. Now, if you notice, you see Jalabia's side now is how he was kicked out from home. He still basically left a little aspect of his crime, how he collected somebody's phone, and how
Yeah.
Bozo carried him to main gates. Same thing with Scatter. We showed Scatter how we tried to use subliminally show how dysfunctional families bring about some of these boys. From when he was young,
Yeah.
his mother was his aunties and uncles didn't look out for him. He just started life on his own. And even how he even got started doing fraud, doing Yahoo, and he made so much money. Then, and how how in a way they can be self-destructive to themselves, and how he ended up on the streets too. So we really wanted to subliminally show different aspects of this story. If you had followed, let's just say Jarabia, for example, there's a lot of context we would not have seen that Scatter story gave us. So we just zeroed in on those 3 stories, and every other interview we've interviewed so many of them. Every other interview we left them out and just zone in on those 3 guys.
Yeah. I mean, well done. It's definitely difficult focusing on a subject. Sometimes, you might lose the soul, but you're able to kind of maintain it
Thank
throughout
you.
the documentary. Yeah. You've completed a bunch of documentaries. How do you decide when the story is over? Since it's actually like people's lives and, the story goes on. When do you decide that you want to like end the story?
Okay, for me, I know this might sound very vague, but the point I get to when I'm filming, I just feel a breath of fresh air. It's like I don't know how to explain it. It's like an orchestral music playing in my head, and the point I'm filming, and the music comes to an end. Do you get so?
Yeah.
But in more practical terms, now it depends on the kind of documentary form you are going for. For people that have a more reportage form of documentary or more expository form, you can write the full documentary script prior to when you even go to shoot. Do you get?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you will follow the script as it is, but you already know your beginning, middle, and the end. But people like me who have a more cinema verite, observatory kind of approach to documentary, I have an idea of what I want to tell. You get? And once I get that idea of what I want to tell and how I want to pass the message, and I have all that on camera, at that point, my documentary is over. Then what I can now do following up is, or which I do practically, is that as I'm shooting, I'm editing, I play Tetris with my interviews. Even if they know I don't put any B-roll on top. As I'm shooting the interviews, when I get back that day, I've watched everything. I've cut out the parts I feel I need. I play Tetris around it. So in playing Tetris, I try to connect to my story arc. Do you get? Like for OYO, I wanted to at the beginning establish the system, the LMA system. There's no other journalistic piece on it. There's nobody talking about it. So I really want them to understand what it was. Then going to the middle, I want to enter their philosophies, do you get, and their backstories. Then towards the end, I wanted to show how they are a community of friends, but at the end of everything, they are left to, at the end of everything, you are on your own. Like basically, you are left to yourself. Do you get?
Yeah, you can't
So
trust
once
anyone.
you can't, do you get? So once I got all pieces of my film, I knew that to end it, I needed to end it on a more philosophical approach or the rest. So that came into when I was playing Tetris in my interviews and the rest. So once I got my interviews and saw the key things I needed, I just told myself that good, it's fine. I have all the material I need. So, and that's also key into another aspect, which where I feel most documentary filmmakers should do. I feel it's very important to be writing. Me now, even if what I did on Orthodox, the standard thing to do is as you get your film or your interview, you keep writing your story. You keep rearranging your story. So at the beginning, for big production companies like BBC and the rest that have African Eye, they have a documentary script from A to Z. But as they get on the field, they keep changing the script as more material is joining in and changing it. Then as you keep changing the script, it gets to a point where the story has fully matured or has fully formed, and okay, good, I have all the material I need for what I'm trying to create. Me, on the other hand, because I'm a more visual guy, I don't like transcribing my documentary and the rest. I like watching it and feeling everything. So I watch everything, play Tetris with the parts I feel are important. Once I see that my timeline is getting full enough and the information I need to tell the story is passed, I call it a day. Yeah. So that's basically how I approach it. That's how I know I'm meant to end it.
Okay. As part of StoryMe, you're able to access some grants to help in this documentary, but money is one thing. Your creative team is another thing. Apart from your brothers, like what community of people kind of helped in putting this film together?
Yeah. In making this film was like a labor of love. Why I would say that is that we had a small grant from French Embassy and Story, but the grant
Yeah.
was considering we also shot for 3 months. The grant was barely enough for the equipment we needed. So what I did, I assembled the team together. I told them, I drew the vision on them and said, this is what we're trying to do. And everybody fell in love with the vision. And I didn't pay anybody. I didn't get paid. My editor did not get paid. My DOP, nobody was paid. But we made sure that for the money we had, we rented good enough equipment. We were able to provide welfare for people that came around. And after shooting the film, I just had people that just wanted to be part of it. They just wanted to come on set and the rest. So we even had, in fact, in terms of crew, we had a larger crew number than we even needed. Some days especially the days when I was shooting them in the bush, I tried to keep it to just three of us, three crew members, and I didn't put any females because of security and the rest. And but we had so many people that came around to help, and it's the same reason why I feel like the Benin community, the Benin creative community, although it's kind of fading away, but it's a very small, close-knit community where everybody knows everybody. So when things like this happen, people can really come together and push. So like I said, nobody had a fee. Everybody just came together and we just built the story piece by piece. Although I was still very strong and key on the direction, but we built the story together piece by piece, and that's how it came together.
Okay. All right. So at this point, let's digress a bit. Can you tell us a film or a documentary that you loved growing up? Like, what's your favorite film?
Okay, there was this documentary I watched that inspires my new documentary film that I'm going to be creating. The name is For Summer. It's a documentary film. It's literally a documentary film that explores the 5 years of the uprising in Syria. And the woman she married a doctor. And her name was Wad Al Katiba. She gave birth to a daughter during the war, and she told the story from a very, very raw perspective. Like, she was hands-on, shaky cameras, hospitals destroying. It was very, very intense and very, very raw, and it really drove how I see documentary films and what I should look out for documentary films. So it was very, 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 very intimate, very, very epic. So that was For Summer. It's every now and then I go back to it and it really does something to me. Then I also watched this other film, the film with No U-Turn by Ike Nabue. He was also one of our mentors. It's a very wonderful film, still very raw, intimate. He followed the journey back, his migration journey he had 20 years ago. He followed that same road and recounted his journey, meeting with people and the rest. Those two, there's still so much more, but particularly For Summer, it really struck something in me, and it drives the kind of films I want to make, because I like documentaries that are informational, expository, but I really want people to feel that raw, intense emotions. And that's why even when it comes to filming, I'm not in a rush. I'm not like for OYU, would have shot OYU within 3-4 days, and we'll just do the random, get the talking head, everybody will come and see how they're suffering, and we just get random B-roll. I really want to express that raw emotion. Like, I had a film talk for Sunny in Benin last year, and I said that, like, as a documentary filmmaker and a hunter, you really need to you wait patiently for when the time is right to make your catch. You can't position the catch. You get so so that basically For Summer really did something to me. It really changes how I view films. Yeah.
Okay. So when you're not studying or attending lectures, and when you're not making films, what else do you do? Like, what makes you come alive?
I'm kind of this kind of philosophical subtext kind of guy. So when I'm not studying, when I'm not going for lectures, some days I take random walks. I take very long walks with music in my ear, and just try and dissociate for a while. You get, like, I could have very long evening walks and just just look at random people, try and think of their stories. Like when I mean, okay, see kind of filming then, but like I film them in my head, but like in
Yeah.
a more serene way. Like I could just put like a love song and I'm walking on the street, I can see a young girl or a young guy that is still in the early stages of they have not even entered a relationship or something that I can imagine how everything is going. And it just sparks my imagination like that. I connect with different people's emotions. You get sometimes I just watch not to watch the sunset like they do in Hollywood films, but I just watch as the golden hour or the blue hour is on the roof, and it just sparks my ideas. Then some days I read random books. I also like reading non-fiction. So I read
Yeah.
some non-fiction books, some philosophical books. Then I also play the guitar. So some days I'm on my guitar, I'm doing my stuff. Yeah. So basically I like seeing and it's not just even with films or the rest. I just like exploring the depth of life. You get? I like asking myself questions, and that's why I
Mm.
really love, and that's what I really try to show in my films. I always want people to ask. I always want people to ask deeper questions. So basically, that's what I
Yeah.
do. I daydream a lot. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's basically it.
Okay. So when you wrapped post production on your own, did you show it to the LMA boys?
Yes, I did. We had a very. It was emotional for a lot of them. We
Mm-hmm.
had what I did. I could not do at that point. The film was still in a very. In fact, the film has gone fast wider than I had dreamed. So
Yeah.
when I had just come back from Lagos from the premiere, I went to where the boys were. At that point, we could only afford a very elaborate screening, but I brought out a device. We had all of them gathered around, and we sat down and we watched the film together. Some of them started crying. Some of them just felt very. It was a very emotional thing. Do you get? We had a very emotional, or just a very emotional. It was outdoors. It was not even some. It was not such a special. Do you get? It was just very
Yeah.
close to the beach there, and they were just very touched. You get? And it
Yeah.
was like, and I feel it still ties down to the fact that the fact of being seen. Do you get? I don't think they expected
Mm.
it to be that professional. I think they still, in a
Yeah.
way, thought it was kind of content creation, but seeing it come together in that way was very emotional for them. And
Yeah.
it's what really pains me because of for the film, it still ties into one of the issues I have with us as a country in the sense that we hear 200 people died in Borno State or 50 people died
Yeah.
in Kano, and it's just news. We are so desensitized to the evils around us. And the same thing I noticed from the screening that I had with OYU. Now, OYU has had a lot of screenings, it's nice, but we have a lot of people that a lot of people find it entertaining, they find it nice, but we have found it really hard connecting the audience to making a real change for these boys. Do you get?
Yeah.
Now, I had a colleague of mine that he's also a big documentary filmmaker. He has gone to IDFA and all these big documentaries, and he told me something. He told me when I explained this to him that as an artist, we are, or as filmmakers or artists, we are. Our role is to tell the story. Do you get? Like our role
Yeah.
is to present the story in best and allow the society do the best it can to respond to the story. Do you get? And I know, yes, ideally, I've told the story. Do you get? But it still pains me that for many of the boys, it is we can't have that. We have not been able to have that change in their lives. But the only thing
Yeah.
and that is still the same reason why I still love documentary filmmaking because it is a capture in time, and my hope is that if even it might not be this year, it might not be next year, maybe 3 years from now, we can find a permanent solution to the dilemma system in Benin. Why he also touches me a little is that one of my main characters, Jalabia, he loved he misses his grandmother so much because she was literally the only woman that loved him. Do you get? And
Yeah.
if he could do it again, he would bury her again and all those. And
Yeah.
it was so heartbreaking to see that he died a few months after that. But the only relief it gave me was that possibly he would have just died without us filming him, and his story is gone for life, it's ever
Yeah.
gone. The comfort it gives me is that his story lives through the film, and
Yeah.
maybe it might not be today, maybe it might not be tomorrow, but maybe someday, one day, we might, through his story, we might find a way to have create a much better life for many of these other boys growing up on the streets.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't have known about him if I didn't watch the documentary. And sometimes this kind of stories help in humanizing, just I guess random people we see on the streets and we don't know much about them. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So, how much of the Stormy community and the feedback that you got, how does feedback play into the larger creative process, especially with documentaries?
Yeah, feedback plays a very big plays a very very big process, a very big a very big role. Like I'm a very huge sucker for having feedback, but it's also important to know who you have the feedback from. So what I did when we let me use OYO as a case study. When I finished, I'd first made the first rough cut for OYO, so I brought together my
Mm,
team for us to watch it. This was before I got to Lagos for the final week of the fellowship. And when I brought
yeah,
my team together, everybody was honest. Now the documentary then had a more talking head approach, and everybody was honest about what the documentary lacked and what was missing and how we didn't have this that, and that feedback really informed our decision. And we decided to go back and get some more physical to show, not tell. That was the
mm,
concept, but we didn't show enough. You get
yeah,
so we went back to the streets. We this time our focus was not getting interviews. Our focus was just observing them more so that we could show more. So if I had not had that feedback with my crew, an honest feedback, because one of the issues I feel most creatives have is that we don't have to take criticism. We feel we know it all, or we just feel that But having my crew sit down and first critique it, we the film took a new look. Then after the film took a new look, at the final week of the we had another 1 week session before the premiere where we
yeah,
tightened up the edits and the rest. And when I knew the film was, when I had a very strong feeling about the film was the first time I previewed it with all my mentors and everybody there. Mayeni Jones, the journalist that mentored me, she let out a tear, and I just knew that okay, we have been able to express this language in a
yeah,
way that different people can feel it. So they all loved the film, everything was there, but they now started. There was still a second wave of criticism. So that's where we changed the name from Displaced in Time to OIO. Now I was crushed
mm,
because I had fallen in love with this. Just imagine your project for years. And like I've called
yeah,
Displaced in Time for like 4 years, and so they just came and said, this name is not passing information as much as it
yeah.
should. So, but
You
I
being
had to
very
just
philosophical as you like to be. Yes.
yes, but I had to take it up, and I found in fact I found a new name that evening, and it was even I think one of the persons that even inspired him was Sophie Bouillon. She runs the
Yeah,
academy, so she just said, "Have you thought of on your own?" And I just thought of it, and I said, "Okay, this is still kind of philosophical. It works. It's
yeah,
catchy." So we moved into that. Then when we shooting the film, like when I presented the film to them, they loved everything. In fact, the film initially, what we were meant to create was a 10-minute film. What I created there for them was a 25-minute film. But they said because of the screening and we could not show it in it take up too much time. They said I should cut it down to 15 minutes. So
yeah,
we started doing some cuts and trying to make it shorter. And David also told me about there are some parts that I made with some crime on camera, and they said, okay, let's try and protect our character. Let's remove this. It might put them in trouble. Blah 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 blah. Move that.
yeah,
So after the fellowship, that's when I decided to take it as a personal journey to using the material we have to make a 40-minute cut that you can see on YouTube and the rest. But initially, the
mm,
film was meant to be a 10, and I made that 40-minute cut as a task to myself because that was my vision for the film. Do you get
yeah,
like that was my goal for the film? It was not just about let me just make a film for story me. So that's why up to today, why you have an 8-minute cut, it has a 15-minute cut, it has a 25
mm.
minute cut, and it has a 40-minute cut. But all of them
And all those
tell
cuts are complete in themselves.
all of them are complete in themselves. They tell the story from beginning, middle, and end. The only difference is um in the 40-minute cut, you can look into the characters, you can feel the characters more. There's more but in the 8-minute cut, for example, now we go straight to the core central spots of the story. but there are some things that are very similar. That they parallel, or there are some basics in everything. Do you get? It's just a little more about the context. So they criticized the name, they removed some parts, and I didn't have everything. If I look back, it really tied into the film. But there's also some parts that I left as I wanted. That I said there's a point there's some criticism you want, there's some criticism you don't want. Now for some people they would say there's some parts of the film they said I should have used an Afrobeat song for. Do you get? But the context of them asking me to use an Afrobeat song was the fact that the global wave of Afrobeats. Do you get? But as an artist, the emotion I wanted to pass there is not Afrobeat. Do you get? So at that point, I decided I had to say, okay, no, I don't. This is what I want. I don't want that. Do you get? Then we tightened it there. Even in terms of the coloring, we're very, very intentional. I had my crew members come in, we put in eyes. If the film doesn't have a very dark look, but you don't see bright greens. You don't see very bright greens and very bright blues. We try to make it try some muted tones. And if you look at it with a much deeper eye, you see that the tones become much, 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 much more muted towards the end when we have the crescendo and we have the ending. So like I said, I'm a sucker for criticism. I'm a community guy, and I like everybody coming together to really craft. There's only so much you can know and see, and there's still so much that you can get from random things around you. So yeah.
Let's talk about on your own on the festival circuit. How was the global reception? It got into a lot of festivals.
Yeah, the global reception was very, 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 very wonderful. Now, when I'd finished the film, I had a dream of maybe I'll just get to like 5 film festivals. I'll gather my guys, we'll go to one film house close to my house, we'll just rent out the hall, do a small screening. That was really my dream. I didn't imagine it as such. But there's another thing about me. Like I said, I applied for the most randomest of things. So I started applying to, first of all, I used Film Freeway. I applied to all the free film festivals. Then I started categorizing the film festivals that I paid that I want to apply to. So, and I developed a thick skin for rejections. I think I've received like 200 rejection emails in the last 3 years. So rejection was I didn't really care about rejection so much. So I started putting it in there, and surprisingly, I was just getting selected for different film festivals. We have done, I think we did over 25 film festivals. Then we had some special screenings, like we had classics in the parks in Ghana. We had like 2 special screenings in Benin. We had some other screenings here, different spaces. Then we did
which version made it to the festival? Is it the 15 or?
Now what I did was that I layered out. Based on each film festival study, I decided the version to put forward. Now for some film festivals, I attempted the 40-minute version because I knew that they will have much larger programming time, and they will have a much they will have a larger specific need for those kind of films based on the kind of film I selected before. So for some specific film festivals, I put the 40-minute version there. Then for some film festivals, for example, we got into Durban. Now Durban was it was crazy because of I got into Durban, but I didn't get into Afrif. But I think I know why I didn't get into Afrif. But once I got into Durban, I didn't really care so much about Afrif anymore. But for Durban, I didn't expect to get selected. But I just said, okay, I have a film, let me put it together. And I noticed from their film, from their submissions that they do not, their feature length, or let's say 40 minutes and above films, they are very selected. They are probably done a world premiere at maybe IDFA or Cannes or whatnot, or they have a buzz around them. Then I decided that, okay, if I want to have a fighting chance of being shown, I think the 15-minute version will work better here. So I submitted the 15-minute version. In fact, at that point I submitted the 15-minute version. I had not come to full realization that category is actually the Oscar qualifying category. You get? Yeah. So I just submitted the 15-minute version, and I think it was the same day I got the rejection from Afrif that I got accepted to Durban. So it was very out of the pocket and very, very eye-opening. Yeah, so that was for Durban. So we had for different film festivals, we looked at it, we said, okay, this one, the 40-minute version will work based on what they program and their programming time and and for this one, the 15-minute version will work. For much bigger film festivals, we use the 15-minute version because obviously we don't have usually from what I learned from all my trips to different film festivals and the rest, there's a global community, especially for documentary films, even feature films, and there's a buzz. You get there's a as much as the film is good sometimes, the people you co-produce with your international co-production partners, your people who fund your film, they all
Yeah.
play a role into getting your film into certain film festivals. So from the bigger ones, I didn't go for the 40 minutes version, but for the bigger ones, I went for the 15-minute version, where there's a larger chance of me getting selected. Then for
Yeah.
the smaller ones, the ones that are more Nigerian, African, I went for the 40-minute version. So that way we're able to optimize our submission spree. So yeah, we did quite couple of film festivals, had some really nice screenings. We had a very nice reception for different many of those screenings. Very, very
Yeah.
nice reception. We had people cry, we had people smile, we had all ranges of emotions, and I didn't have everything. I feel even if some of them were still desensitized, we're able to really have the audience connect with the boys. And why I also loved our film festival route was that we had some unorthodox spaces. For example, we got into a film. It was a film school's film festival in
Yeah.
India. You get and to have people from India, to have people from. In fact, I even had another journalism school that screened the film in Indonesia. To have people
Mm.
from all these extremes of the world connect to a film about young boys that are staying close by to my house was very uplifting, and it will kind of reiterated the fact that okay, maybe we are doing something right.
Yeah. So your story me journey continues. Can you tell us more about, some of the opportunities that story me keeps kind of bringing your way, and maybe you can also tell us on what you're working on next.
Okay, yes. So story me has really been a very strong blessing. Now story me is like a as much as they will give you so much to do. Story me is and I would look at it as apart from the mentorship, the tutorship, it's an access card. And what I mean by an access card is that above you have access to your mentors, for example, Louis, Ike. Now we have Chike Odua that has worked as a correspondent for Al Jazeera and
Yeah.
Vice News and the rest. You have access to those people to ask questions, to brainstorm with. As much as they would mentor you, well, all of us we're all professionals, so it's really left to you to to push on what you want. Do you get as much as they will mentor you, nobody's going to spoon feed you everything. Do you get? So if you
Yeah.
really want to push on what you want. The second one, why I also see it as an access card is they have sponsored me to two different film forums. One was FIPA Doc in Biarritz, the film festival. Then Sunny Side of Doc in La Rochelle, which is the film market. And from all
Yeah.
this sponsorship, as much as yes, they will take you there, they will connect you with some basic network. They you have access to. They give you its full expense paid. You have festival accreditation. Literally they just gave you a full access door. You get and
Yeah.
you have on the festival platforms, everybody's contact is there, their email, their face, their role. You can literally connect from the biggest to the lowest in documentary film space globally.
Yeah.
You can literally code, you have emails of over 1,000 people that can help your films and the rest. So I would say for me that is really what stands out for me, that access. So we went for the first film festival in Paper Doc. It was kind of new to us. Basically, it was our first time being in that kind of space. We learned a
Yeah.
lot. I collected a lot of contacts, built some network. But then we went again. This that was last month. We went for the
Yeah.
sunny side of the Doc in La Rochelle, the film market. So first of all, we were able to connect with some of people we connected back then. We saw them again in sunny side. So like the documentary film space globally is a very small community. So usually the same people you'll be seeing over and over again. We've
Yeah.
made some new network. I'm working on a new film called Beyond the Horizon. In this film, I am actually in the film. It is exploring the story of I and my friends as we navigate our father in the medical school and the choice we will decide to make. if we're going to move abroad to the global north for a better life, if we're going
Yeah.
to stay back and fight at the front lines of our dying healthcare system, or if we leave medicine and chase our other passions that does not give us stress. So that is new
Okay.
film I'm on. So we each of us had our new projects we're working on, feature length projects. So we got there. I was able to I prior to the film festival, I could email a lot of people, set up meetings. At the meeting, we're able to discuss the film, discuss what they want to see. There you will meet different producers and different people with different things they're looking for. You see some
Yeah.
producers that are looking for more current affairs, talking head documentaries. You see archive producers with archival footage that they can give you, they can license to you. You see some people that are looking for science, you see some people looking for art, you see some people are looking for more character-driven documentaries. You see
Yeah.
distributors. So, like I said, it's like a buffet. At that point it's not left to you to say, okay, this is my film and this is what I'm trying to create. You have to do the back end study and see, okay, this person would this person be a nice fit? Would this producer be able to carry the idea of my film? You get they can also get advice real time from some really senior people in the film ecosystem. You get and the advice is really very uplifting. Do you get? A lot of times
Yeah.
people make applications for film things, but you'll be able to see at the back end what they look out for globally. Like if I'm to highlight something they look out for globally, they one thing they're really concerned about is your connection to the story. Why do you want to tell the story? Like
Yeah.
a lot of times we especially in the creative film ecosystem here, we like showing poverty and it's just about this
Yeah.
person is suffering. But in the global documentary ecosystem is way bigger than that. Why? What's your connection to this story? Like if you're using someone like Ike Anabue, he had gone through that journey to through this desert and everything to Europe before. So he has lived that life and he wants to re-express it. Do you get?
Yeah.
So before they even get into your narrative arc and start reading your dossier, your script, they will really want to know what is your connection to this story. Why should you? Why are you the chosen one to tell this story? For example, I watched a pitching session where a white lady was telling a story about I think it was about albinos in an African country. And one of the judges there said, would you consider getting a co-director? Because, I don't want to sound somehow, but you're a white lady telling an African story. So all those synergies, they take a role to play. What is your connection to the story? Why should you tell the story? Before it even comes to even your technical stuff about the story. And if you're able to show
Yeah.
how you're really connected to the story and that connection to the story, it's much easier to get funds. Then, secondly, everybody is also looking for why is your story globally relevant? Do you get, like, let's say I want to give money to shoot your film now about
Yeah.
something happening in Benin City. Why should somebody in the United States, why should somebody in UK, why should somebody in France watch your film? And if your film cannot answer that question, it's not if as much as it's a very good film, has a nice story, is not they can't give you money because they can't distribute it. So when you are crafting your film, your distribution plan should be clear. You get, and it should also nuance why you are making that film. And that's why a lot of times, a
Yeah.
lot of documentaries from Africa that get licensed is their migration stories because it's a global thing. Do you get? It's a thing
Yeah.
that connects. Same reason why you see a lot of queer films too find it easy to get licensing because it's a global topic. And same thing with war films. Every war film, every new war film that comes, it's easier to get funding too. But when you start doing hyper niche films, like you want to tell a film about a woman that sells in your street. Okay, yes, you're showing motherhood, but why? I've seen the story before. Why should we? Why the global appeal to it?
Yeah.
Do you get? So all those things matter. And with Story Me and being there and seeing the pitching sessions and talking with producers, talking with different people, it really gave me a stronger idea of why and how I should craft my film and the things I should say from applications. Now with my Story Me mentorship, part of my Story Me mentorship, up to now I think we receive a lot of rejection emails. But my rejection emails are getting fewer. So at the very least, it shows that okay, I'm fine tuning my process. Do you get?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically it.
Nice. Nice. So, what would you say you'd like to see as an improvement in the documentary space in Nigeria?
okay, this is not even just the documentary space. I would say it's in Nollywood generally. First of all, there's an issue with there's knowledge is not there's no democracy to knowledge. Like everybody always communicates in hushed tones when it comes to their filming process, their distribution process, and whatnot. And um, it's very, very stressful, and I feel it hinders growth. For
Yeah.
example, I reached out to some distribution partners in Nigeria, and they replied on LinkedIn. They didn't reply via email. They just ghosted me via email. But in the urban film space, I reached out to some of the biggest, like some of the really biggest people in the European documentary film space, and they replied my emails. And if they cannot
Yeah.
help, they will tell you they cannot help, or they would even recommend who you should email or how to approach who do you get like they've if you are growing up if you are a filmmaker growing up as a documentary filmmaker or whatnot in the film space it's easier to find resource and material, easier to find
Yeah.
direction. Do you get compared to Nollywood where you just wake up, you're passionate about films, but everybody's just quiet. Nobody wants to review. Okay, how do I do this? How do I get my film to this? How do I present this film to the distribution partner?
Yeah.
You don't even have you don't even as much see. You don't even get their emails. You don't even see their emails to reach out to. So I feel it's very very. I feel it's very very terrible. I feel that is a very big, and it's holding back the film industry because there are a lot of people with very
Definitely.
great talents. There are a lot of people with even access to resources to shoot these films, but they don't know where to start. They don't know who to meet. Even in terms of even our film festivals, okay, yes, Afrif is doing a good job. We also have there's this other films I really like so much, ENIF, Eastern Nigerian Film Festival. But even in that, there's not still enough information out there to how to approach these things. Now people say,
Yeah.
okay, your film should have a clear global standpoint, blah 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 blah. Okay, who do I meet? Where do I start from? Nobody. It's not clear there. So I feel that is one major issue with the ecosystem. Secondly, for documentary film ecosystem, it's a small ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's a body ecosystem, and that's why I like Story Me, for example, because Story Me has really come in and they have been able to, through us and through their other programs, they've been able to really bring this community together. You get, and I believe that over the next few years it will grow. The only problem I have, or I wish, the only issue I have is that, which I'm still turning to my first issue, is that for documentary distribution in Nigeria, it's kind of a problem. You
Mm.
get, because first of all, in European film space, the documentaries even go to cinema, but we don't have
Yeah.
a cinema culture for documentaries here. And secondly, like I said, there's so much hush tones. In the European film space, if you can literally see a clear chart for how you would market a documentary, whether it be a
Definitely.
documentary series, documentary film, feature film, even a documentary short film. But
Mm.
here we don't have that. So a lot of times, as a documentary filmmaker, you have to look for how to connect to that European film space from
Yeah.
Nigeria. So you see a lot of the great documentaries that come out from Nigeria, you don't even see them because Nigerians are not watching them. The people who are enjoying the fruit of these great documentaries are Europeans because everybody's thinking of how to get that is their distribution plan. Those are people that would enjoy their films. I have a really big
Yeah.
senior colleague of mine who I respect, Omorige Osapolo. He has done a lot of nice. He has done a couple of documentary films. He even entered VR documentaries. He recently released a documentary VR film called "We Speak a Name in Hushed Tones" about how
Yeah.
families of migrants have died in the Sahara Desert and the rest are left in limbo, and how they don't know.
Yeah.
In fact, they don't even like talking saying the names of their family members because it brings back a lot of memories. And it was a VR
Mm-hmm.
project. I went for the exhibition. It was really nice, and you know. But if you look at it, the exhibition in Benin was more of a symbolic gesture than a distribution gesture. The distribution
Yeah.
is still mainly European and US based. So I feel that we really need to, as a film, as a film body or as a community, come together to
Yeah.
see how we can really look into the distribution of documentary films within the country. The only Nigerian documentary place you can only watch Nigerian documentary films right now is on YouTube. Do you get, you barely see it on TV stations, you barely see it
Yeah.
apart from reportage, TV stations or platforms. And I feel it's a very problematic thing. So yeah, so
Yeah.
that's really cool. Those are my observations.
Yeah. And I mean, in addition with what you said, like these are the times that, it's important for Nigerians to tell their own stories and also create these
Yes,
opportunities because, I mean, I've also applied for documentary grants and because you're probably not going to get all the money from one financier. They tell you that,
yes,
okay, because your country, there's hardly anywhere to get grants. So chances are that if they give you this money, you won't find money to complete it. So they basically just push it to the side. So I think it's
yes,
also, yeah, very important for, I mean, everybody in the Nigerian ecosystem to kind of come, if they need to finance documentaries, again, you have a distribution plan. But I think having a space where all these things can coexist kind of opens up more opportunities. So people might look at it now and say, oh, there's no business there, there's no money there, but things tend to open up as opportunities are, kind of
yes.
given.
To
Yeah,
even add to even add to that, yes, like in terms of film agreements, you get. I feel recently I thought we made they made a film agreement with Brazil,
yeah,
a production co-agreement, which Nigeria and Brazil, which was really nice because it's a global fashion country too. It's opened up a lot of space, but I feel we need more of that. And even when it comes to
yeah,
funding, what you said is actually very correct. A lot of times they want to see that your film has support from, let's say, a national
your
film body.
country. Yeah,
And it's for example, South Africa is so easy to get funding from your country. You get, even let's say your film
yeah,
is like your budget is $100,000, even if it's $10,000 you get from your country or $20,000, it gives other people that are going to fund your film the confidence that okay, there has been there is support or there is
yeah,
government backing, so this film will actually be made. Because I don't know my colleagues in that followed us to France. He met a really nice person that funded the film. But one of the problems was, okay, as much as we want to fund this film, we have not really seen any strong funding from your country. Do you get, like, apart from Story Me and French Embassy, which is still French,
yeah,
they have no Nigerian body, NGO, government, nothing that is sponsoring the film. What is the
yeah.
guarantee that will not give you money and you run away with it or something? Do you get? So
Mhm.
all this is something that, and I feel it still ties down to the government. If when it comes to film, and I like documentary film space, nobody's going to give you your full budget, even if it is okay. The government starts giving out, even if it's 5,000 or $10,000 as development funds
Yeah,
to finish the early development of the film. It will go a long way in finding so much funding for the film on the long
definitely.
run.
Because all these things, like, I think there's just a role that government needs to play. In
Play,
most countries, there's government involvement, and so for a country like South Africa, they have a fund that filmmakers can apply for to attend festivals. And just think of a festival like Berlinale. Part
yes,
of the criteria for them to choose you is how you're going to pay for your travel, and so they look at a country like Nigeria and they say like, oh yeah, there's no support, so let's
there's no
select
support.
less Nigerians. So I
Yeah,
mean, it's just a cyclical thing that keeps coming back to affect us. Yeah, but yeah, hopefully
true.
things open up, and I guess government on their own side can ramp up a bit of support for the industry rather than just kind
Hopefully,
of taking credit like, oh, a Nigerian got selected to this festival. They can also do a lot more work in
a
the
lot more
kind
work.
of early
Yes,
stages. Yeah.
yes, they
Nice,
can.
nice. Yeah.
For anybody listening, I think it's very important to first of all make films that you would like to see. That is
Mm.
one. Secondly, I feel it's also very important as a filmmaker to make films that to really put in to do your best work. And now why I say this is
Yeah.
that there's a problem with funding. A lot of people see films as, and I also saw this in I went for a film festival, and he's a big Nigerian producer, and he see the same issue. A lot of people get funding and they feel that their life has changed. And let's say you get $10,000 for a film fund, you
Yeah.
use $8,000 and change your life. Then you use $2,000 and do papa. Let's make
Hmm.
sense. So I feel as a filmmaker, and at any opportunity you're given, try and do your best, because your current work is going to determine your next work. And
Yeah, and it
if
also affects people from your country.
yes, and you also assist people from your country. So if you keep being fraudulent, or if you keep cutting corners, it shows. When a film is done well, it shows. When a film is done papa, it shows. So I feel when you are given any opportunity to film, put your best work out there. Your best work will lead to your next work. So yeah, I think those are
Definitely.
my final words.
Nice, nice. Thank you, Daniel, for sharing all this information with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
We have come to the end of this episode. Remember to rate and review the podcast. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Senegal Film, and the podcast at Naija Film Pod. You can now support the podcast by clicking on the link in the show notes. See you on the next episode. Have a good one.